I mean, it's amazing to me that people say, Brother West, you have a chance of turning the whole election. I told my wife, now how in the world, just 3 months ago, I'll wake up and I'm listening to Aretha. Ain't nobody thinking about me. 3 months later, I got the power to turn the whole election.
Yeah, that means somebody not doing something right.
You ain't lying.
That's right.
You got this Black Congressional Caucus been in there all that time, and I'm out there lecturing and writing and so forth and so on. And then all of a sudden I got this leverage, but I can tell you one thing, that they're going to have to put me in the grave before I sell out black people, because I ain't selling out my mama. Oh, I'm not selling out my daddy. No, they were always greater than me. Greater in love, greater in wisdom, you see. So when I have leverage, I don't look at the black community the way my brother Tavis Smiley says so many other politicians do, as some political calculation. No, not at all. These are the people that love me into my sanity, into my dignity, you see. It's like me giving up Curtis Mayfield and opting for the Beach Boys. I'm not going to do it. I ain't got nothing against Beach Boys, but it ain't my thing.
That's right.
Ain't my thing.
That's right.
No. I'm down and out. I want to hear some Anita Baker. You know what I mean?
That's right.
Oh, yeah.
The Democratic Party long ago abandoned the working class in favor of beating the drum on cultural issues, and now that's all the Democrats have to run on. So if voters are looking for a party running on trans rights and calling Donald Trump and his supporters white supremacists, they can already vote for Democrats. The role of a third party is to focus not on the identity politics that divide us, but on core economic issues that unite us along class lines, like Christian Smalls did at Staten Island. Do you think he led with LGBTQ, trans rights, and white supremacy?
We're putting the band back together.
Forget it. No way.
We're on a mission from God.
Listening to Reset Race, you're now tuned in to Reset Race. You're listening to Reset Race, you're now tuned in to Reset Race. Put them back on the grill again. We grilling them. Put them back on the grill again. We grilling them. Put them back on the grill again. We grilling them. Back on the grill again. We grilling them. You're listening to Reset Race. Adults need reparations to make America great. You're tuned in to Reset Race. We no longer starving while others eat off our plate. No. You're listening to Reset Race. We focused on our justice claim. We know what is at stake. You're tuned in to Reset Race. You'll find out what really about justice and really who fake. Lineage go back to US Southern plantations. Lineage, Jim Crow and mass incarceration. Redlining lynchings. We are old from this nation. You're not about justice if you ain't for reparations. MG the wise one. Cousin mother intellectual. Samantha bringing fire. Anti-black we pressing you. No permanent friends and no permanent enemies. The backbone of the country. To win you need our energy. Go on, see. Listening to Reset Race. You now tuned in to Reset Race. You're listening to Reset Race. You're now tuned in to Reset Race. Put them back on the grill again. We grilling them. Put them back on the grill again. We grilling them. Put them back on the grill again. We grilling them. Back on the grill again. We grilling them. You're listening to Reset Race. Adults need reparations to make America great. You're tuned in to Reset Race. We no longer starving while others eat off our plate. No. You're listening to Reset Race. We focused on our justice claim. We know what is at stake. You're tuned in to Reset Race. You'll find out what really about justice and really who fake.
We're back. So, welcome to Reset Race. I guess we're back for a little bit. We're going to give y'all monthly shows, though, because me and Mud are still working on our projects, and we got other stuff to do besides doing this all the time. But since we couldn't stay away because water is wet, I am Sam the Khaleesi, graciously named by John, or he named me that with a bunch of shade. But either way, I'll take it with love. naming me after an evil, crazy woman who wanted
That
to kill
wasn't
everybody
shade.
in the end.
That
She
wasn't
was
no
sweet in
shade.
the beginning.
That was
I know,
all
John. I know you
love.
love me.
Okay.
It's
You
fine.
know that.
And I like being the Khaleesi because I wanna burn some shit down. I'm here with the dragon fires. That's fine. I'm with it. I love it. I love it. So we are back. And John, say hi to the people. And everybody thank John, because John was literally beating the drum to get y'all Reset Race back. Because I was not really trying to do it. But John did this for you. John wrangled the girls. If y'all have never seen freaking Harlem Nights, Who's in Charge of the Girls? John got everybody together. He got us all together, and we're back for you.
Vera, you know we tally up at 4 o'clock. What is your problem?
Kiss my ass, sugar. I've got to watch my girls until the last trick is gone, and I'm not about to ask no customer to roll over so I can punch some goddamn clock. Now, this is your place, but I am in charge of the girls. And you can just kiss my ass.
Oh, baby, please.
No, stop it, sugar. Stop doing. Don't do that. Stop that.
So, John, say hi to the people.
I really don't know what to say. I'm flattered. I didn't do half of that, but I'll take it though. We're gonna just ride with that. But my name is John C., average American Negro. I'm back with my family. Yeah, we've been saying it, man. Jimmy Dore. I be been knew it, but Sam will always say, nope, we can't get him yet. We can't get him yet. Unless when he walks through that door, we're gonna get him. So we gotta go get him. We gotta do some grilling. The summer's still going. So
give a motherfucker a rope. They'll try to be a cowboy. He good. Jimmy was, it was coming, John. We just had to wait.
Just had to wait. Had to wait till he got into the spider web. And like, oh, the anti-blackness just, there it go. But yeah, him, back with the fam. Happy to be here. Let's get the cooking one last time. It's still summertime, so let's get back to the grill. Let's do it.
All hail King Killmonger.
All hail King Killmonger, for he is I and I am him. Jimmy Dore. I've had my eye on you for quite some time. And now this seems like Providence that you and I meet. We have some things to discuss. Let's get to it.
Then the man that's going to give you all the great editing for this show, and I think it's going to be even better since we only do it one a month. Mud, say hi to the people.
Yeah, they call me Mud. You can find me on my social media at Of Lineage. That's on Twitter and Instagram. Yeah, we've been waiting for Jimmy Dore to go fully out there, pull his hood all the way up so that everyone can see it, or pull it all the way on so everyone can see it. But yeah, let's get into the show.
So I'm kind of excited because I haven't watched the video, so I have been enjoying my life. I've been getting over my grief. I've been trying to refocus on other projects. So I have not been checked in. So I missed this whole kerfuffle until the team reached out. So I'm looking forward to seeing this video because I ain't seen it.
I want to just, before we start, I want to get this out there because some people misunderstood my coverage of your appearance with Anderson Cooper, and they took it as an attack on you when I was merely trying to help you get the message right about the Ukraine war. Because as a radical, part of your job is to educate people on what's actually happening, and you have to be crystal clear in explaining it to people, especially about what's happening in Ukraine. So people took that as me trying to attack you when I was doing it more as a coach, trying to help you and get it right. And that's what I'm going to be doing in this interview also, because I was thrilled to hear that you're running third party. So Bernie has sold us out, and I don't need you to call him a sellout or anything. That's fine. But I do want to see, this is your response, because Bernie was asked about your campaign, and he said it shouldn't happen, and he's against it, and he's endorsing Biden, and of course that is just garbage. And so this is how you responded.
And even in love, people have deep disagreements about these things. But I think, again, he's he's fearful of the neo-fascism of Trump.
So when my what I would say to you here, and this is a big point, and I'm trying to impress upon you going forward, that when you do that, you sound a little bit like Joe Biden, and what you're doing is you're giving a pass to Bernie Sanders and anybody else for voting lesser of two evils. So you're endorsing the Democrats' message in their campaign. And so now people can dismiss your candidacy and say, well, we got to worry about the neo-fascism of Trump, as if Joe Biden isn't worse, which he is.
All right. So I want to give a little bit of context. You know, Jimmy Dore started off by, kind of disrespecting Cornel West, basically saying that he doesn't know what he's doing with his campaign. Bernie is pushing for Cornel West to step aside because he thinks Biden is less of a problem than Trump. And Cornel West agreed with Bernie to a degree on that, but he's also being like, all right, Biden's his problem too, but this is why I'm running. And Jimmy Dore is saying, essentially, well, you can't say that about Trump. You can't say that Biden is less of a problem than Trump, because it's not true. So this is what Cornel West is kind of trying to fight off a little bit. He's like, yeah, I have problems with Biden, but Trump is taking it to another level. Jimmy Dore doesn't have any respect for Cornel West. So, that's kind of what we're looking at.
That and I appreciate your advice here, cast in a respectful way. But we do, and I disagree with Brother Nick on this too, that I just got back from Mississippi. You know that. You know what the Jenkins and Parkins, the two brothers brutalized by the police. There at the church, the Klan still running wild, not just with votes, but terrorizing black folk. The Goon Squad finally got caught by the two lawyers, Brother Malik and Brother Trent. Now, what does that mean? That means that when you talk about fascism, you're talking not just about the rule of big money, not just the rule of big military, not just the rule of corporate power, so that it's oligarchic in essence, but you're also talking about dictatorial rule, no elections, the elimination of dissident voices, and then the scapegoating of the most vulnerable, which it could be immigrants, it could be workers, it could be black people, Jews, Arabs, and so forth. See, with under Biden, what you have is a fascist dimension domestically, especially against black folk and others. You and I, the very fact that we're having this dialogue without being eliminated overnight, a fascist regime could completely call into question with the use of arbitrary power. That's what happens in the mass incarceration regime vis-a-vis poor black people and others. Right? So that is the fascist dimension. Similarly so in terms of militarism abroad. So that there's fascist elements, my brother, there's fascist dimensions. But with Trump, when you have calling into question transfer of power and so forth, that is not the same thing. And so that doesn't undermine my campaign at all. The campaign's about truth.
100% undermines your campaign. 100%. You're shooting yourself right in the dick before you even start. So that's just bad. You're getting bad advice. I don't know who's advising you, but they're giving you horrible advice.
January. I'm a free man. I'm a free man, brother.
So January.
But I want to hear your argument. I want to hear your argument as to how Biden is more fascist than Trump.
Trump
just lay it out right quick.
Well, I'll tell you right now, the reason why the deep state Russiagated Trump was because he wouldn't bomb enough to calm them down. So he wouldn't do enough bombing. The reason they impeached him because he wouldn't ship arms to Nazis in Ukraine, and he was against that. So that's
are you defending Trump as somehow being a person who is? I don't understand. I don't stand your argument at this point, though, man. What are we talking about?
Okay, so there's.
I want to understand what the content of your argument is, because one can, in fact, bring critique to bear on the system as a whole with the two corporate wings,
I just wanted to pause it just for a second, just to see what you're talking about. I see what you're talking about. You can just see it in Jimmy's face, like he does not respect Cornell at all. Like just the way he's just like, you shot yourself in your dick.
Yeah.
He's a whole presidential candidate. Are you serious?
It's wild. It's wild, man. But right now, it seems like they're going back and forth. This is the leftist politics stuff. They're going back and forth. Oh, he bombing this, he bombing that. But I know once the video starts, once we get deeper into the video, questions of white supremacy will eventually arise, and then we'll see what Jimmy has to say about white supremacy.
But let me say something about this though. So Cornel West asked him to break it down. This motherfucker starts talking about the deep state and like all that conspiracy theorist shit that the Trump supporters were saying. Like, it's not even like based on anything real. And it's like, look, you can like not like Biden without spitting bullshit about like Trump, like he's doing something, like he was doing something better. Like it's insanity. And then like the way they're asking about this, all right, they're talking about who is more fascist. Like fascist is like a very distinct thing. It's like, okay, you're like an authoritarian, basically like a dictator that it like has a cult of personality around you. Even when you listen to the most, I don't know, motherfuckers are doing the most when defending Biden, it's never like they really like Biden. It's always like he's the lesser of two evils. There are motherfuckers that really like Trump. Like they're really into it, and it's not based on substance. It's like they're just caught up in whatever energy or aura they see around Trump. And then you got the totalitarian one party controlling everything, willing to go to violent means to make sure that they have power to like beat down their opposition. That's like the January 6th shit. Like I know we kind of talk about it like it's a joke, but motherfuckers showed up with bombs.
We have some breaking news on that front coming out of Washington. The FBI is releasing new video regarding the person suspected of placing pipe bombs near the Capitol the night before the January 6th riot. It is one of the biggest unsolved mysteries of that day.
It was like next level type shit. And for some reason, we're trying to put like Biden in the same category. And it's not like I like Biden, but like, let's be for real here. Like, it's different. So I don't know, like we don't have to fucking lie to be like, yo, both of these motherfuckers ain't shit. I think part of what is going on is that once you become like this personality on YouTube or like a political pundit, you got to feed the algorithm. So if your people are expecting you to say certain things like this, you're going to do it to make that fucking money instead of just being for real.
I was just going to say that there is an argument to be made about why Biden is worse than Trump, but it's not on fascism. I don't know that Biden is a fascist. He's a racist for sure, but fascist, no. Or at least not a fascist leader. Agreed.
Like if you're going from the angle like a reparationist, all of these motherfuckers are trash. But if you're talking from the position of like this whole fascist conversation, like what are we even doing at this point? Or like, oh, do we even care about what these words mean? Like, I don't know.
He's definitely placating to his white audience. Like, but you know what's funny though? Oh yeah, shout out to Tim Black too, because I watched a little bit of Tim Black. He did his breakdown of this too, and he said the same thing you just said, Mud, about Jimmy trying to stay in the algorithm, because the Trump algorithm on YouTube, everybody know the right wing got the big bag for you. If you get on that Trump shit, man, you get the bag, and Jimmy trying to secure his bag on the low. I think that plays a part into this bullshit he talking about. But let's get to it though. And yeah, both Biden and Trump is on some bullshit. You know what I mean? Like, so where our money at? That's what I want to know.
But somehow, what do you say to trans and gays and lesbian brothers and sisters in terms of their rights?
So that's again, Joe Biden is responsible for the mass incarceration, not Donald Trump. Who is more responsible for black and brown people being locked up and America being the largest penal colony in the world? Is it Donald Trump or would it be Joe Biden? By the way, this conversation is a loser for your campaign. Sitting here trying to make the argument.
It could be a loser for you too, though.
Trying to make the argument.
You trying to make the case that somehow the Democrats are more fascist than the Republicans. The fascism cuts across the board. But
that's not how you say it, though. You say it's only Donald Trump. You don't say it cuts across the board. You call Joe Biden milquetoast, and you call Donald Trump a fascist. So you're not saying Joe Biden is a fascist, really?
I said there's fascist dimensions to the Biden project. You're absolutely right.
It's like you're campaigning for Joe Biden almost when you're doing this. That's what it sounds like.
That's ridiculous. That's ridiculous.
But that's what I'm not saying you are doing that. I'm saying that's what it sounds like.
What it sounds like to you. That's what it sounds like to you. And you got a right to be wrong. You got a right to be right. It sounds like to you. But it doesn't sound like that to a whole host of others at all, though, brother. Not
okay.
At all.
All right. Again, I'm saying this out of love for you because I do have deep love for you. I have deep respect for you. And we agree on almost everything except the message of your campaign, right? That's the only thing. I would hope it would become even more focal. Well, let me just put it this way.
But are you suggesting that the message should be that Biden is a greater fascist than Trump? Is that what you're saying?
I'm not saying that you should talk about fascism or any of that stuff. I think you should.
No, fascism is very real. I think you don't think fascism is real in the country?
We're living in it. We're living in fascism.
But I'm talking about escalating in terms of intensity.
It has since Biden became president. It certainly has escalated in intensity. They've censored everybody. They've crushed unions. They've started another war, and now they're saber rattling with 2 nuclear powers. I don't know how I don't know how worse it could get. And by the way, he still hasn't let people out of prison. He still hasn't given student loan. He's still denying us health care. He's an enemy of the worker and a tool of military-industrial complex in Wall Street. There's no bigger fascist in the country than Joe Biden. The reason why black and brown people are locked up, again, isn't because of Trump. It's because of brother Biden. And Joe Biden is proud of that. He brags about that. He brags about the crime bill, and he will never apologize for it. So I'm just letting you know that I really want your campaign to pick up traction. This is the opposite way to do it. Who's ever advising you sounds like an infiltrator.
But why do you keep saying advise me? I'm thinking for myself.
Look. This is how Jimmy has been able to duck the smoke for the longest, because he'll jump into this mass incarceration conversation.
Yep.
And look, we can have a conversation about all of that. I don't know. Like, do we not remember Trump having black people beat up at his goddamn rallies? Like, do we not remember this shit? Do we not remember him saying, like, basically that we should throw more black people in jail and beat them up before we throw them in jail? That type of shit he was on. Like, it's
when the looting starts, the shooting starts.
Yeah, I remember that.
I mean, it's like, yo, what the fuck is we doing? And like, he couldn't even stand on like being against Nazis in the goddamn Charlottesville shit. Like, what are we saying at this point? And Cornel West, like, yo, this is my problem with this motherfucker. He's too soft. Like, you're right in front of this motherfucker. This is the time you really should go off on a motherfucker to like get them straight about what is really going on, and you don't have the balls to do it. And it's so weird how he's gotten positioned as like a radical black like activist, because he's not. He's never been that. He has been milquetoast when it comes to like his advocacy for black people. But like, I just don't understand why he can't like tap into like whatever aggression is left in him in this type of situation. Like, you literally got a white supremacist in front of you telling you that you should not center your people's oppression, telling you essentially that you're a fool and that they're going to teach you how to fucking, I don't know, be a thinker. You're a whole goddamn academic.
Yeah, that's crazy.
And this motherfucker's like a failed comic that like got lucky on the internet. and he's trying to talk down to you like you some little boy.
I felt the slave master energy coming. Like, this is what you need to do. I'm like, I understand him having an argument, but I mean, yeah, this shit kind of crazy, man. He wants him to just attack Biden all day and not really focus on his people. Like, I can't. He wants him to act like him. Like, this is not a unifying message. He's gonna get into it later though. This is not a unifying message when you talk about white supremacy because it's poor people in that blah blah. Fuck up. But yeah, but I do feel that slave master energy. Like, damn, why you talking to Cornel West like he a little boy? But you're right though. Cornel need to have a backbone, man. You need to have a backbone, bro. Like you know, it is what it is, man.
I blame Cornel because he's afraid to go after the Democrats like he should. His slip was left hanging and Jimmy's pulling on it. That's just the reality of the scenario we looking at. Because Biden might not be a fascist, but he is a problem. He is at least as much of a problem as Trump is for Black people. And as a Black person, you should be able to see that. So nobody should be able to like drop this in your lap and you don't have a response. This is a failure on Cornel West's part.
Now, this is something I agree with. Like my other issue with Cornel West is that he doesn't go hard enough about like the shit. Like he just talks in general about shit. He doesn't go into specifics. There's a way to fucking have this conversation where you can beat up Biden all fucking day. But you would also have to beat up Jimmy. And you have to beat up all the white, like working class motherfuckers that is in his audience. You're going to have to beat up all the Trumpers. You're going to have to beat up all of America in having a real argument or having a real conversation. But, you know, it's not in him. He wants to be friends with everybody.
No, he wants to keep making his money. This is who Cornel West has always been. That's why I've never been on the Cornel West train. You notice, even before when we would talk about him, I never badmouth him, but I never jump on his train neither. Cornel West is about appealing to the largest audience he can so he can keep getting those speaking fees and keep getting that bread coming in. Cornel West has never been a stand on your square Black American first kind of person. Even and Sister Soldier was fussing at him way back then. Look, y'all remember this Sister Soldier?
And as to paraphrase, in a general sense,
we're in a situation. Senator Bradley of the all-white United States Senate said we can't get there unless we all go there together. Sorry, none of us are where he is. That's number one. Number two, you're making a moral appeal to a country that doesn't have a moral conscience. The question becomes that when white people feel serious and angry and upset about abortion, they come out in the thousands up to the millions to say, this is what we believe about abortion. Where is the white outcry against white racism that murders African people all around this entire globe? It doesn't exist. So who are these white good people? I want to meet them. I want to see them. A few is not enough.
But that might be all we can get.
A few, no, and get what? A few is not enough.
But that might be all we can get.
A few, no, and guess what? I don't work with all I can get. What I work with is what I have. Listen, you have to have some confidence in the power of African people amongst ourselves to establish a foundation. We have. No, we haven't. We have utter chaos in our cities, and you've got to see that. You can have a program. I'm not saying we built a lot of institutions, and those institutions have not been effective. The majority of millions of African youth in this country are dying mentally, dying spiritually, dying emotionally, dying academically, and you may have a program, Mr. Brown may have a program, but what we got to talk about is an American government that tracks millions of African people who don't go to your program, don't go to Brown's program, millions of African people, not only here, but all around the world. And if we are not honest enough to say who are our friends, who are our enemies, to know what a friend is, to know what an enemy is, we will constantly be trying to get into people's parties, to shake our butts with them, to get them to like us, and that's not the question. The question is, what can we build amongst ourselves to secure ourselves from our enemies so that we will be able to survive into the future?
I wish they would have played more Cornell, but y'all see, Cornell ain't changed.
Damn.
This from the early 90s, late 80s. Cornell ain't changed. He's the same dude. When people show you who they are, believe them.
Damn.
He's too soft.
No, I get what you're saying when you say he's too soft. But when I think of somebody who's soft, I think of it like as like they haven't like had time to like build up being tough, right? When you see somebody too soft, you know, they never really had to like build that muscle, right? This is a tactic. This is who he chooses to be. You understand? Like this is his choice. His choice is I'm gonna play the let's love everybody game. Like when he was, where did he go? Where they brought up and we're talking about how immigration hurts Black Americans, and he kind of like shied away from the whole conversation and stuff like that. It's just like Jimmy's giving Cornell shit. I guess he's gonna get to the point where he gives Cornell shit for like being too pro-Black. But on the Black side, we not looking at Cornell West as our champion because he is not out here really championing the things that we need as a community either. Am I wrong?
Nope, he's a dark-skinned white leftist. I will say Cornell West does get it right occasionally. I don't hate the guy. I know who he is.
I don't either. So I don't hate him, but I don't expect him to come and save me either. Or my people.
I mean, the thing is, it's like he is on the right side of this argument, and eventually he's not going to like, it's not like he just folds, but it's just not enough. It's like,
so we can see it, because I haven't seen it yet. So I'm only going off of what I've seen. I haven't watched this yet. So.
But I mean, even with this, it's like Jimmy's talking to him crazy, and it's like, dude, like stand up for yourself, and like not even like stand up for yourself. Put this motherfucker in his place. He's wrong. You're right.
Yeah.
You're an academic. He should not be talking down to you like this. Why the fuck are you talking about like we disagree with love? Fuck love.
That's his bullshit stick.
If I'm the star here, you can't disrespect me, even if it's your show. Like, bro, like I am the presidential candidate here. Like Cornell West need to go watch the Breakfast Club.
Presidential candidate. Sorry, go ahead.
He need to go watch the Breakfast Club and watch how the white people act up there. If they hear a question they don't want answered or they don't want to ask, they out. This fool, he just gonna sit here and get disrespected for 10 minutes.
Yeah, that's wild to me. Are we ready to keep going?
Yep, let's do it.
Brother, I'm a
okay, I don't mean to insult
man.
you. That's not
just a question of advising.
Okay.
I don't ask who's advising you. You think of yourself. You're a free man too, aren't you?
You're right. You're right. Okay, I was trying to put it in a nice way.
I use that kind of language, my brother. You want to be respectful.
I'm trying to be respectful. That was my.
I appreciate it.
Okay.
I know it look like it's hard sometimes, but I appreciate it. But we just have disagreements on these things.
Again,
if I undermine the campaign for you, then you're free to have your own view and vision, and people are free to listen to you and be persuaded or not. And I've got mine. I'm listening for your insight. Absolutely right. No doubt about that.
So let me just say this. So the point of running a third-party campaign is to offer an alternative to the two major parties, to bring together disaffected members of those parties, along with independents and others who feel alienated from the political system as it exists. And the best way to do this is by running on economic issues that unite us, but which neither major party is willing to address because they're both beholden to the same powerful corporate interests. The Democratic Party long ago abandoned the working class in favor of beating the drum on cultural issues, and now that's all the Democrats have to run on. So if voters are looking for a party running on trans rights and calling Donald Trump and his supporters white supremacists, they can already vote for Democrats. The role of a third party is to focus not on the identity politics that divide us, but on core economic issues that unite us along class lines, like Christian Smalls did at Staten Island. Do you think he led with LGBTQ, trans rights, and white supremacy?
I find it funny that they bring up Christian Smalls when Christian Smalls' union is literally trying to oust this husband because he out here trying to be a celebrity versus actually doing the work of getting them a contract. Excuse me, did they ever get a contract?
Hey, it's Jordan with Status Quo. Happy to be joined by Tristan Martinez. He's a worker at Amazon's JFK 8 that won the historic first unionized Amazon in the country in 2022. My memory is fading at this point. So obviously there have been efforts since then, the Albany Amazon and another Staten Island warehouse that were unsuccessful. And since your victory, now there seems to be some division happening between original organizers of Amazon Labor Union, which obviously has Christian Smalls in the media and elsewhere as the figurehead. So why don't you tell people who don't know, there has been kind of a fracture or a split between you and some of the other original organizers from Christian Smalls and some of the original ALU organizers.
Well, yeah, I'm obviously a part of the Reform Caucus. I have been with Chris and Derek and them before we even started the union. I was there when we were planning the original walkout during COVID-19, and I got to say, with the walkout, a lot of their original organizers are members of the caucus now. Most of us who were there since day one don't like what we're seeing. And, we're taking action towards that, not just for ourselves, but for the workers in the building who believe what we believe is that, there hasn't been a lot of movement and, they're not liking the direction that the ALU is going in. So out of a response to the workers, that's where we're actively trying to change that.
I remember reading an article about this. I was out the loop, but I wasn't that far out the loop. So it's just funny the people that he brings up be lacking credibility because Christian Smalls, his card is being pulled in his own shit.
Wait, so if addressing white supremacy is divisive, should we not do it? Is that what Jimmy's saying?
Jimmy would have been one of those people who would have been like, don't talk about ending slavery. That's divisive. And we want to bring the North and the South back together.
Yep. Class reduction bad. Anti-black class reduction. That's why we got a show.
Like, my problem with people on these, what are the winning issues is I'm black. And, winning issues have never been, a thing for me. I care about the things that actually impact me. I don't care, if this will convince white people. Chasing what will convince white people would have left my people in slavery. Would have kept my people second-class citizens. Go ahead.
No, I was going to say, talking about issues that bring us all together, healthcare is an issue that should bring all us together. White people are the majority people in this country. So white people can't come together and say, hey, we should just make it where people don't have to pay if they get sick so people don't die for no reason. And white people who are the majority can't come together to do some shit that would help the majority of them because they're the majority of the population in the country. But you expect me to just throw my lot in with them when they don't give a fuck about each other.
Well, y'all realize that our purpose in life and in politics is just to help them win. We're not supposed to have our own goals or our own wants and desires and need for justice. It's all about them.
John, tell me what you want me to do. You want me to take you out of here? Just let you run away? See how far you could get?
Why would you do such a foolish thing?
On the day of my judgment, when I stand before God and he asks me, why did I kill one of his true miracles? What am I going to say? That it was my job. It was my job.
You tell God the Father it was a kindness you done. I know you're hurting and worried. I can feel it on you. But you ought to quit on it now. I want it to be over and done with. I do. I'm tired, boss.
This nigga's crazy.
Shut up talking about those silly Negro issues. We need to talk about what brings us together, like labor unions. Remember labor unions in the 30s that excluded black people and beat the shit out of them? that was when the worker came together. Not the black worker, but like the worker. Get your ass out of here with this dumb shit, man.
In New York and Philadelphia, blacks own less than 20% of the cabs. Government licensing closes the door to economic opportunity. Nearly 1,000 occupations in the United States exclude people who do not have licenses. Sometimes the licenses cost money. Sometimes they require the applicant to pass complicated tests that have little to do with the job. Sometimes getting a license requires a friend in the business. All those licensing laws do just one thing: keep outsiders out. Those outsiders are often members of minority groups.
Back during the 30s and 40s, there were practices that were rampant in the South, particularly in the former slaveholding states, where blacks were specifically excluded by predominantly white unions. Example, electricians' unions, plumbers' unions, railroad firemen unions, and at that time, the records of history will demonstrate that it was the purpose of white unions to exclude blacks, minorities in general, from the workplace. In fact, there were statements specifically made in connection with occupational licensing regulations that if this law is successful, it will have the effect of reducing to a minimum the involvement of blacks, or Negroes as they were called then, in the workplace.
This is the Mount Zion United Methodist Church in Washington, D.C. Back in 1880, when Washington was still a segregated city, this beautiful building was built by black artisans, black plumbers, carpenters, and masons. And mind you, all working under black supervision. So are many other important public buildings in this city and in cities throughout the South. Today, that sounds remarkable. Even now, black people have a hard time breaking into the skilled construction trades. The fact is, in the late 1800s, black people were better represented in many of the skilled trades than they are today. Today, such blatant racism is illegal, and many union leaders would like to see more black workers in union jobs. But again, good intentions don't always produce good results.
The effect of the government endorsing collective bargaining and the closed shop concept within the union movement was that it basically locked in place, to a large degree, for a generation or two to come, white domination of unions. And when you confer upon a union, in effect, monopoly rights to bargain collectively for the entire workforce, they in effect can lay out the conditions, they can set the price for their labor, and they can control entrance to that particular industry.
Restrictive labor laws are just like minimum wages in some ways. In effect, they force inexperienced workers to charge more for their labor and thus keep them from competing for jobs. There are many examples, but one of the most infamous is the Davis-Bacon Act, passed in the racist days of 1931, but still in force today.
The Davis-Bacon Act is a 50-year-old law passed during the Depression, the purpose of which was to prevent employers from undercutting wages at a time when it was very much a seller's market in employment, a very high unemployment rate, and it was a worker protection act. Now, it's very much outdated today because the Davis-Bacon Act, 50 years later, has become a union protection act. The net effect of the Davis-Bacon Act today is that it favors union construction firms.
Most blacks are in non-union construction firms or are independent tradesmen. Davis-Bacon excludes them from most government contracts.
Was the Davis-Bacon Act of 1931. And the Davis-Bacon Act says that all workers in federally funded or federally assisted construction projects must be paid the prevailing wage. And if you look on page 6513 of the Congressional Record on March 31st, 1931, you'll see congressional testimony where congressmen will say, see that contractor over there? He brings cheap colored labor up from the South, puts them in cabins, and it's labor of that sort that has to compete, that white Americans are competing against. It was all kinds of testimony in support of the Davis-Bacon Act that demonstrated that they wanted to keep blacks out of construction. Wow. And see, the tragedy of it is that the Davis-Bacon Act is still on the books today. And another part of the tragedy is that black congressmen, they also support the Davis-Bacon Act. Now, they support the Davis-Bacon Act because unions want the Davis-Bacon Act. Now, the people who support the Davis-Bacon Act today, they just don't use the same rhetoric. They use a more enlightened rhetoric in support of the Davis-Bacon Act.
But on core economic issues that unite us along class lines, like Christian Smalls did at Staten Island, do you think he led with LGBTQ trans rights and white supremacy, or do you think he organized along class lines? That's what we have to do. You have to organize, meet people where they are. So what is your plan to organize along class lines, or are you going to keep talking about white supremacy and all those identity politics, which are there, not from the ground up, from the top down?
I don't want to stay on this too long, but for those of us who are Black people who read, if you read, every time we've come together with white people on class issues, whether it's unions or anything else, as soon as there's a bone to be thrown, white people take the bone and discard the Black people from the group. It never helps us. Sorry, y'all. Sorry. Until white people really stand by Black people, that's never going to happen. And we are not going to keep, what do they say, doing the same thing over and over again and expecting a different result is crazy. We've done this with y'all. And the reason why this doesn't work is because if you're a person who thinks that only class matters, then you are ignoring everything that I'm going through with race. Now, as a Black person, I can acknowledge the issues that you go through with class and with everything that has to do with living in the society that we live in. But you can't understand my plight, nor do you care to. So how can we be allies when we don't even respect each other about why we're here fighting in the first place?
I just have a question. Since when are class politics not identity politics? Is your class position not an identity?
Working class sounds like an identity to me.
I come from the school of all politics are identity politics because, like, what else are you appealing to the group for, if not for your identity? But, like, they try to make it out to, like, the Black stuff is the only identity politics that exists. That's nonsense. All of this white working class, AKA silent majority, we know what y'all are doing. Go ahead.
Well, I was going to say, because this isn't class solidarity. If it were, I mean, people who are fighting for justice on the basis of class would also recognize that there's needs for justice in other ways, and they would be trying to get that type of justice for people who they have solidarity with. What this is race solidarity, which is why they are trying to undermine us so that they can make good with the white workers who have a problem with us.
Exactly, man. Exactly. That's all this shit is. Everybody knows the working class. When politicians say the working class, when they say they've been mentioning since the 1800s, the working class, Black people, we inherently know they not talking about this. Let's be honest.
When they talk about the working class, they're not talking about the Mexicans. Go ahead, John.
We know they're not talking about us. But then what the leftists would do, but there are POCs and black people drive buses too, so we are. No, you're not. Stop it. You're talking about Billy Bob at the factory. You ain't, come on, just cut this shit out. So, I mean, it is what it is, man. Even since our Black Reconstruction video, when the only time we could have did it was during Reconstruction, the poor whites refused to get with us. They refused. They was all fucked up because of the war. Houses was blown up. They was like, no, we not getting with these niggas. We got to be above these niggas. And that's where the South is still one of the poorest regions in the country today. So,
to make sure we stay divided, what is your plan to organize along class lines?
Well, I appreciate again the clarity and candor of what you have to say. We have profound disagreements, brother. When I organize around white supremacy, I'm not making some utilitarian calculation. I'm speaking as a black man who comes out of a tradition that's been terrorized and traumatized by white elites. And that does not in any way mean it takes me away from class issues. Class issues are crucial. Class issues are fundamental. But it doesn't mean that I'm putting up with white supremacy. One of the problems is that you get too many folk who want to talk class, and can't say a mumbling word about white supremacy, police brutality. Can't say a mumbling word hardly. Or when they do say it, you call it identity politics as if it's not connected to class. I'm hitting these head on. I'm standing with the workers when it comes to strikes. I'm standing with the workers when it comes to greedy bosses. I'm standing with the workers when it comes to obsession with profits and the needs not in any way being satisfied. But I'll never for a minute be silent or not raising my voice in terms of vicious treatment of black people, indigenous people, gay brothers, lesbians, sisters, or trans. It's not an either or. And that's where you and I have a deep, profound disappointment. So if I see, for example, if I watch your show and I notice you hardly say a mumbling word about white supremacy because it's some kind of identity politics and I'm against it, but I don't want to talk about it. I only want to talk about what people hold in common. Well, black people are not going to hold it in common if you don't say a word about white supremacy, but maybe some of your white friends will. So who are you talking about? You're talking about in common. Are you talking about just a majority or what, my dear brother? I will never, ever in a million years not talk about vicious legacies of white supremacy, male supremacy, homophobia, transphobia, and others. But class will always be very much at the center. What brings you and I together is what? Our fundamental solidarity with working classes, not just here, but around the world. But oftentimes when I hear about your show and you say, well, you know, these identity politics issues get in the way. No, it's 100%. Not getting in the way. They're not getting in the way.
100%. They're used by the Democrats. That's all they have to run on. And when you say that stuff, you just sound like a Democrat because that's all they have. So if
exactly
you
wrong.
need,
if the talk about the dignity of black people in the face of vicious white supremacy makes me sound like a Democrat, you got the wrong earplug.
Okay,
you're not listening clearly. Because if you can't hear the critique of Wall Street, if you can't hear the critique of militarism, if you can't hear the critique of his foreign policy in Ukraine, and all you can hear when they talk about white supremacy is identity politics, then something's wrong with your earplug, though, bro.
Look at him, just shaking his head, smirking. These damn silly niggas. Why don't they just shut up and stop talking about racism and focus on class? This old nigga. Jesus, I'm so these niggas. And I wish I could say nigga.
I know. Goddamn, shut up, Negro, with your Negro issues and Negro ways. Be quiet. Fight for Billy Bob to get a raise. But you know, and you know what else? Jimmy wanted to say. You know what he's really saying, Sam? Remember we were saying this for 2-3 years. Like he like Cornel West when you talk about white supremacy. You're a neo-lib. You're a neo-lib talking about black people issues, man. That's neo-liberal. You're a neo-lib. These people are a fucking joke, man. Jimmy Dore. You already knew. You already knew. That's all I got.
I think, though, we got to blame Cornel West in a lot of ways because he hasn't spoken up enough about this. This is like one of the few times he goes on these types of shows and they are directly coming at him with this shit. But he goes on these white people shows all the time. And when he's not around talking about jazz, this is the shit they're saying. and he doesn't say anything about it when he goes on their shows. He's let a lot of shit slide, and now he's getting his nigga wake up call, and he's realizing, oh, I'm not the special Negro. These motherfuckers really think they can control me and tell me what the fuck to say and what to do. And yeah, that's what it is. Like, we've never had solidarity with these motherfuckers, and trying to do it on our own class lines has partly been the problem. Like, even when we're sitting in front of somebody and there are counterparts, usually we're not even in the same class category with them. If we do it based on wealth, we're just in a whole different category than other like workers in this country. We see it with like the difference in income. We see it with the difference in wealth. We see it with the difference in unemployment. We see it in the difference of just like our skill set not being able to command the type of jobs that they're supposed to command. Like we're dealing with something completely different, and we try to keep trying to have this class conversation with white people, and the reality is, even amongst themselves, this class conversation is not working. They don't give a fuck about this class conversation. But they come to us with it, we buy into it, and all we're doing is like giving up ground to satisfy something that isn't getting us anywhere anyways.
I want to jump in on, I just want to hone in on one thing that you said. Because this is why I don't fuck with that white left YouTube space. And this is why I don't fuck with a lot of you white leftists. Because, and I went through this with a personal friendship with the white lady. And then even with the white left YouTube space, y'all have no interest in listening what the fuck we have to say as Black people. You're interested in listening to me long enough for you to try to convince me of your project. And you will sit and give me lip service as if you care about my project. And then you try to build camaraderie. And then over time, you try to steer me to focusing on your project. That is some fucking parasitic, wannabe manipulative shit. And we smarter than that. And we're tired of it. We see you. We see you. And then for personal friendships, you go and you be friends with y'all white leftists. And the minute we step out of your box and really get on you, because what happens is you don't listen to us. So we're constantly over and over and over again telling you about our project, telling you what we're trying to do, telling you what we want as Black Americans. And then you'll look at us one day and just be like, well, I don't see why you just go about things this way. It's just, how am I supposed to get everybody on board? Basically what Jimmy Dore is doing, but I'm doing the white woman version. This is y'all. And then you wonder why we don't want to fuck with you. This is it. Mirrors up, babies. Look in your face. This is what y'all do. This is what y'all do. So as long as you are just sitting around listening long enough for us to shut the fuck up so you can just tell us what you want to say and you continue to ignore us, your projects are going to fail. Because the only time white projects even are successful in this country are when Black people attach themselves to it and push it up over the hill. So if we don't jump on, shit goes nowhere. I'm done. Who wants to go next?
Can I just say that Will Smith has always been one of my favorite actors and a personal hero of mine. I think he has a really good idea of how to deal with disrespectful comedians. Because I just think there are far too many who have never been slapped before.
But he was just listening to baby powder. I just want to be there to put the baby powder on his hand first, and then he can go ahead and be about his business.
Slap the flame out. That's fucked up.
We need to get Bernie Mac.
We don't advocate for violence here, but seeing Jimmy get the flame slapped out of him, I would definitely pay to see this, something like that. I'll pay that.
Nobody ever said that Jimmy should get slapped.
Oh, okay.
He said that Will Smith has shown a blueprint for how to deal with disrespectful comedians. He never said nothing about Jimmy. And to be honest, Jimmy is like a failed comedian anyway. So technically he's a YouTuber. Now, if he would have said that about YouTubers, but I don't think of Jimmy as a comedian. I think of him as a fucking YouTuber. He's like a low budget Bill Maher.
He is. Oh shit.
Something's wrong with you. We just have deep disagreement with that. But
it's disappointing.
It is what it is. You are profoundly disappointing in that sense. But I still love you, brother.
I still love you too. I still love you too. I know you. I know you. I don't disagree with what you're saying. I'm talking about having a campaign. I'm not. There's a okay. So,
but the campaign is not by utilitarian calculation.
Sorry, I'm gonna let him go. But you see how he said, no, I agree with you in private, but for everybody else, we got to tell them to do it this way. That's another tactic that y'all like to use. Sorry, I'm gonna let this jet go by. What you gonna do?
Yeah,
You gonna chase the jet?
I like to call that back of the bus politics.
Sorry. Okay, yeah, now I can hear myself think. So no, this is something that y'all do. So it's like, no. I believe what you believe. I just don't think that it's politically feasible, or I don't just think that it's that or that or that. Have you noticed all these white people who are so on our team and so believe in what we believe, but they believe in it in the closet? I thought it was bad to put people in the closet. I thought it was bad to force people to be in the closet. I thought we stopped doing that. Okay, I can keep playing if y'all don't have nothing else. I'm sorry, I just caught that again. I'm like, I caught that he said that. Like, no, I'm with you. But I just don't think we should be talking about that in public.
I mean, all I would have to say is, I got a question. Like, is Jimmy Dore a campaign manager? Or, like, has he ran a campaign? Like, this is the shit. Like, people got to stay in their fucking lane. I know my lane. I'm not a campaign.
Run for president or some shit, and you see that shit didn't go nowhere, but he know how to tell this ninja how to do it because he's white and he say so. Sorry, go ahead, John. I'm sorry for cutting you off.
No, that's definitely why I was getting that. He just on some white. I'm white. I'm saying what you need to do is not talk about the blackish. Shh, can't do it because we need to pick up some white races. I mean, working class people, and that's the only way you can win. Have you ran a campaign before? No. Maybe you need to shut the fuck up then.
The real question is, when do we actually talk about Black issues then? Like, when do we actually challenge white supremacy? Are we just going along with white supremacy? Are we just teaming up with the white supremacists? Is that the game plan?
Yep. That's the game plan. The game plan is for us to stick our necks out so they can chop them off.
How else are white people going to get their student loans paid?
Mulism. Black American, the left just use niggas as mules. This shit's sad. You want Cornel West to just be a Negro, big Negro mule, and just, oh man, this is some wild shit.
We need Cornel West to be Negro big mama. We need him to be big mama. We need to feed everybody, the kids, the grandkids, the great grandkids. But don't sit down and eat yourself, big mama. You got to feed everybody else first.
Yeah, well, that's some slavery shit right here, boy. Tell me.
But the campaign is not by utilitarian calculation either. I don't look at black people like a utilitarian calculation. I can't say nothing because these people over here somehow are alienated. I'm telling the truth. I'm fighting for justice. And if people feel as if to talk about white supremacy is alienating, then they're going to be alienated. I'm talking about my mama. I'm talking about my daddy. This ain't no abstract dialogue about politics in the Machiavellian sense.
Sorry. Here's another thing, too. So when people start sitting around talking about greedy capitalist landlords, do any of y'all be feeling offended? Then why do white people be offended when people will be sitting around talking about racist and racism? If I start talking about greedy capitalist landlords and somebody gets offended in a room, there's a possibility that they're a greedy capitalist landlord. That's all.
Isn't he the no censorship guy? Everybody should be able to say what they want to say. Didn't he lead this conversation with that?
That's not for ninjas.
Ah, gotcha.
Us ninjas are supposed to stay in our place.
Not for me, bro.
I'm glad that Cornel West finally got here, because this is actually like some real shit. Like, look, I'm not doing this because, you know, I think it's cool. I'm doing some calculations to win. Like, no, this is about like my people actually being okay, like my family, my mother, my father, the shit they went through. This is the legacy that I have to carry on. Like, that's some real shit. And it's like, I don't know what white people expect to us talking to us this way. Like, do they really think this is like working? Like, this is convincing any black person? Like, beyond your like leftist coon that is completely bought into the nonsense you're saying, do you think you're going to walk into black people who haven't fully bought in, who don't know shit about your imaginary idea of what Marx's theories were versus what his actual theories were? Because most of you motherfuckers don't actually know his theories or any theories. You just be talking out your fucking asses. But
You
do
know,
you
Jimmy
think you're
ain't
gonna
got nothing.
do you think black people who are not into this shit are going to hear you talk about how we need to shut the fuck up for the sake of white racists who are in the working class so that they can get a better quality of life? Do you think we're that's some convincing argument?
And again, this is not to beat up on Cornel West. Cornel West is who he is. Everybody has to make a choice about how they're going to move forward in the world, how they want to present themselves, and how they want to contribute to their people. I don't get to tell him. I can say, I don't think you going far enough, but I can't force him to go further. And it is what it is. But, you know, I'm glad in this moment, I don't know if Cornel West never had one of these moments, but every person on this panel has had this fucking moment with white leftists. Am I wrong?
You ain't lying.
This is
Not
just
at
the
all.
first time anybody gets to see it in real time.
And this is why we have a show to call this bullshit out. They still keep doing it.
Came out of retirement.
Yeah, Jimmy brought us out of retirement. We had to come get him, man, because the way that Jimmy been staying away from us is he doesn't talk about black people issues. See that he doesn't team up. So Sam was like, we can't get him. I'm like, but we know. He's like, we know. But as soon as you really see that, once them black people issues came up, Jimmy whole clan hood came up talking about the working class. We need to unite. The people, if you look at a lynching photo, it's not a whole bunch of white elites with John D. Rockefeller with a tuxedo on hanging. No, those are
It's
the
all working class white.
They all dirty. They just got from work hanging Negroes. Like, the elites ain't telling them to do that. That's what they were about for 100 years.
That was their entertainment. They brought the whole family out for the picnic where they went and lynched a nigga.
Yep. Got whole videos with little girls and little boys in the pictures and shit.
And you want us to ally with their offspring. This shit crazy. I mean, and
especially
not bring out
because
issues.
this they grandkids. People don't realize, like, we were getting lynched. Well, excuse me, correction. We are still getting lynched. They're just calling them suicides. But when lynching was popular, see how long this is, the 40s, 50s, 60s. In the 60s, my granny was in her 30s. Okay? In the 50s, she was in her 20s. So a lot of these people are people's grandparents. And for some of y'all who are older, some of these are your fucking parents. And these, I still want to do that aging. We need that aging software. We need to go and age up those photos and start finding all these memas and popos. And like I said, just like they did with the Jews and the Nazis, I want you to start marching these motherfuckers to court and to jail. I want a whole geriatric wing for the Jim Crow trials.
Jim Crow trials, hashtag Jim Crow trials. We definitely got to bring back the death penalty too. I would just suggest that. I'm not really a pro-death penalty guy, but for the Jim Crow trials, yeah, bring that back.
No, sir. No, sir. No, sir. I need them all to go to a private prison owned by Jay-Z.
No. I want it to be owned by a Black American community like the Indians get to do with their prisons. Fuck Jay-Z. Not one individual. I need to go to a Negro community.
Can I just say, Jimmy Dore was born in 65. He's been alive since 1965. He saw everything happen since 1965. And he's talking about, hey, Don't say nothing about white supremacy. Really, nigga?
He's saying that because I heard that he said that he's from Chicago, so he used to have to fight the black dude. The black dudes was putting the mittens on him in school. I think he still might have resentment from them brothers in Chicago putting the mittens on him when he in 1973 at the elementary school. That's why like I'm talking about those black people. Well, you know.
But you notice they all need to have black mascots pushing their agendas.
Of course.
They all try to they all have their little favorite black mascot pushing their shit.
Sabi Sab still work with Jimmy, but she be sitting around talking about the leftists need to listen to black voices, but you teamed up with like this fucking Bill Maher, this low budget Bill Maher, anti-black racist motherfucker. I'm like, the shit y'all do for clout just so you can make a couple dollars, like.
Now Jimmy Black Pup is they say that they put him in the dirt. They trying to climb back the black revolutionary, whatever formerly known as the Fred Hampton leftists. Them people in Nico House, that's crazy. At Nico House, that's a damn shame. That's his pup.
For me, I don't even have time for this. Like with that, like I will not be addressing these other stupid. Like I will not be addressing like these goofy. Like we were done with them when they were Fred Hampton leftists. We will not be addressing that revolution because we already proved that they're frauds. So if people want to keep following them just because they switch up a little bit and try to be more ethnic, that's fine. I don't care, especially because they ain't really got no black Americans over there, no way. So if you're a white person listening to them about what black Americans care about, you're not even listening to black Americans. Most of them are first generation. So they're not connected to the slave blood that is in the soil of this country. So that's why Jimmy looks stupid. Oh, well, Nick said, if the U.S. government gives reparations tomorrow to black Americans who descend from slavery, his check will be of a zero. He will not get a fucking thing. So he don't give a fuck about it. So why are you going to that dude? Where are your black Americans? Where are your black Americans that are actually working in the black community? Let's bump like just the YouTube shit. Where are the black Americans who are on social media that you see or that you're trying to look for that are running communities that are literally doing shit in the community? I'd rather you talk to them and them say some shit I don't agree with, because at least they're in the community.
Facts.
You don't even do that. Y'all just pick these random pawns and then you elevate them like this is who you should be listening to. And you can tell because when you look at a lot of these black people that are elevated by these white pundits, these white YouTubers, when you look at their following, black people don't follow them. If you see a black person and they don't have at least 50% of they following black, run. If it has to do with politics, something's up. That's it.
Not at all.
So
my brother.
what when Bernie caught
we marched together for class politics, we marched together because that's real. But if you think that talking about white supremacy is just identity politics, we got deep disagreement. That's all. So I'm sorry to go on, and you're very kind to let me go.
No,
on.
go right ahead. No, go right ahead. I don't. And honest, everything I'm saying here, coming from my heart, I want your campaign to succeed, and I want you to have the strongest campaign possible. But Bernie caught on because he would always, if he was given a cultural question or an identity politics question, he would always bring it back to class and economics. And it doesn't, well, here I was talking to one of Bernie's campaign managers, and this is what he said. Yes, I personally agree white supremacy is one of the causes, but if I lose two potential allies because they roll their eyes and stop listening before I get to their concerns, I've already lost. The civil rights advancements, women's rights, the environmental movement, they didn't happen because people like my dad voted Democrat because that stuff mattered to them. It happened because Democrats appealed to them on economic issues, and a lot of the Democrats they voted for because of economics also happened to vote for that other stuff.
Are we gonna skip the whole fact that like TV was new and they were literally showing Black children getting their ass whooped by the police on TV, and that created a lot of sympathy that helped push some of this stuff through. And then even when they did, it still was like, well, we want you to stop beating them up, but don't go too far.
Didn't they literally murder Dr. King?
The government did, literally.
So, I mean, I'm like, those civil rights that we got through all of that, it was like, did they see what they were doing to us and who they did it to? Like, what is he talking about?
King, mega.
He's talking
So
about
many.
how white people did all this stuff for us from their, the goodness of their hearts versus us agitating and creating this situation for ourselves by protesting since we got on this goddamn soil.
That's what he said, Mud. He didn't say that they did it out of the goodness of their heart. He said they did it so they could get some free shit from the government. That's what he just said.
That's what.
But I mean, it's so fucking wild how they like remove like all of our agency, all of our like history. It's somehow about like their good, like us getting in their good graces and then them doing something for us. And not even doing something for us, but doing something for everybody. That's the conversation. And it's like,
my bad, man. I'm sorry.
no, I just don't understand. Like, it's clear, like, this is not a conversation to get us on board. It's basically to get white people on board and have us ride the coattails of white people. Like, that's the conversation. And it's like we have to do all this math where we're like worried about, are we alienating white people without like any consideration about, are they alienating us? Like this whole conversation about, oh, I turn off 2 Democrat allies and when I bring up white supremacy. If you turn off white people when you bring up white supremacy, they ain't my motherfucking ally.
That's what I was going to say.
That fucking part.
That's all I was going to say, man. I was thinking the same thing, bro. He brought it up. You're going to turn off 2 potential allies talking about white supremacy. That's not an ally. You brought up white supremacy, and he's like, oh, fuck that bullshit. And we know what he said. That's not an ally. So, but yeah, I 110% agree with you, man.
So
This is one of,
I don't know. It's like they just want to spit in our fucking faces and have us act like that's not what the fuck is happening.
Facts. Shall we continue?
Hold on. This is one of the rare times where I would have preferred to have Dr. Umar speaking for me. Because Jimmy Dore doesn't try this with Dr. Umar.
It only takes a little bit of white brainwash to activate the coon chip in the average Negro.
And it doesn't work in the inverse. So I'm just giving that to you.
No, I understand. But you can see again how I disagree. Keep in mind, bro. Civil rights movement was not because of white folk doing X or Y. It was because it was a social movement led by black people in the South that was multiracial, but led primarily by black folk. And neither party would have done anything without that social movement.
100% right. You're 100% right. No doubt about it. And I think
but that's my tradition. That's my tradition. How can you talk about?
No, I love to hear you talk about all that stuff, and that's good for a radical black activist who's representing his community. But I'm just trying to impress upon you that there's better ways to run a presidential campaign.
Oh, it's cute to do that on TV, but when it's time for you to actually run for president, put the ninjas to the side.
What exactly does he mean by radical?
I don't know, because Cornell ain't radical.
At all, not
they
even
mean
a little
the
bit.
radical tradition, as in the old black church. I understand when he means the radical tradition, as in civil rights, blah, 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 blah. But as in radical, the true definition in the dictionary.
Yeah, no. I'm not seeing it. And like, I've noticed that like for the past few years, white people have been doing that a lot. Like, oh, it's the radical left. It's the radical left, to try to like delegitimize somebody's perspective. And I'm like, huh. Like, because normally Jimmy wouldn't even go that route, but he's like, oh, yeah, you're a radical black activist. Since when? Cornel West is the radical of us? I've never heard him described that way.
And so that for a black radical activist, that's great. That's honey. But for someone who's trying to appeal to a wide swath of people, disaffected Republicans, independents, people, that's a death for that campaign. That's my opinion. That's just...
Well, yeah, we'll have to see. But keep in mind, though, brother, that one, I've never, ever said that all of the followers of Brother Trump are fascists. I said he's a neo-fascist Pied Piper. His followers, 1 out of 8 went with Bernie, 1 out of 12 went with Barack Obama. He's got a heterogeneous, diverse group. And I can speak my language of truth and justice as it connects to capitalism, imperialism, white supremacy, male supremacy, transphobia, whatever it is. And there's going to be some people who listen, and there's going to be some people who don't. But this is not just a question of political calculation and Machiavellian reflection, brother. This is about the quest for truth and justice. You got to be real. You got to be authentic. I'm not listening to consultants who tell me to use this particular kind of language with this group and this kind of language with that group. That is the essence of managerial bourgeois politics. I reject it.
So I heard you say one time that someone asked you that same question, why don't you call Joe Biden a fascist, but you call Donald Trump a fascist? And one time you said that it was because Donald Trump criminalizes and demonizes his political opponents, and that's what fascists do. Well, of course, now they've been trying to criminalize and put in jail Donald Trump, Joe Biden's #1 political opponent.
Sorry, I paused it because I was like, that feels like a false equivalency. Like, and you don't have to leave this part in, or you can, I don't care. It just, however, because like, I don't have a super hard on about Trump, but Trump did enough for them to come after him legally. And normally presidents do a certain amount of illegal, shady shit and get away with it. But he was so like grandiose and brazen with his shit that the law is coming after him. I don't feel like it's a Joe Biden thing. I feel like Trump made a lot of enemies while he was president, and shit happens like this. People get axes to grind and they grind them. But I don't feel like, they're using it. Like, no, Trump made his bed. He did the shit he did. Now, okay, if you want to argue like other presidents do shit like that and nobody comes after them, well, maybe we should stop forgiving people. Like Nixon should have went to jail. He should have been pardoned. You know what I mean?
The shit that's crazy to me about this is like, what are we talking about when we talk about Trump? We're talking about how he pretty much attempts to organize a coup where he was going to steal an election and he was going to do it violently. And motherfuckers broke into the Capitol. Like, we watched the video of the motherfucker getting shot, people being chased. Like, this is not like some small shit. Like, this is literally like Trump attacking his political opponents to maintain power. That's the very, this is a fascist.
All I got is guy on like January 6th, that white lady that got shot by that black cop. I think the black cop should definitely get a medal. We should definitely start a GoFundMe for him, give him some money. And that white lady fucked around and found out.
Yeah, I hope we cut all of that. Yeah, no, she deserved to get shot. Fuck yeah, because if she was Tyrone, she would have had a 3-piece to the chest.
Yep, she got a noodle.
Execution style. So it is what it is. Shit.
Yeah, police have a hard job. I mean, he just wanted to get home to his family.
That's all he wanted. That's all he wanted. That's all the brother wanted.
Are we in like the Twilight Zone or something? I get it. Like, I don't fuck with Biden either, but what the fuck are we doing now? Are we just saying anything?
This one is hard for me to really, really give my opinion on. Because, like, I don't see much of a functional difference between fascism and racism, other than white people are more scared of one.
Yeah, wow. Yeah, shit. I mean, same thing. I'm just like, to me, this is like they having white politics kind of discussions. Oh, Trump is, they went after Trump with the deep state and Biden and Trump. Like, to me, like, that's the white people politics type stuff. It don't matter to us. To me, they both, you know, are enemies. They both hold certain attitudes towards us, and they both not our friends. So to me, the kind of conversation they having about, oh, Joe, you have to talk about Trump and get disaffected Republicans, aka get them anti-black white people. Like it's that bullshit. So I really don't really got to play them.
I hear y'all, and I was kind of there with it until I thought about it, and like the whole, like, black people getting beat up at his rallies type shit, like his political rallies.
Remember that? Yeah.
I don't know. It's just different, man.
I get what you're. So, and please, I don't want to post all of this because we're getting into the semantics. I think Trump is an average American racist.
Mm-hmm.
If that makes sense. I don't think he has a great disdain for us, but I think he sees us as beneath him. But again, that gets into his average American racism. The average American, when they start seeing riots and stuff on TV, even just watching the way they talk about shoplifters. Have y'all been seeing all these videos of them like literally like chasing down and beating the shit out of shoplifters? I wish I would waste my day trying to chase some stranger for stealing a box of tampons from Walmart. On Walmart, care for. Well, but if it keep happening, they'll get rid of Walmart. Then it's Amazon. Shut up.
I know, just lying. But they. Oh no, remember, but you seen the video when the homeless white dude he was in San Francisco, just walking to the pharmacy and just stole mad shit. They just let him leave with the shit. Well, that was a black person trying to steal some Doritos. They would have been all trying to become a hero and all this other shit. You know how that is.
I mean, I think my thing is that Trump was always willing to amp up the violence. It wasn't like,
I agree. Sorry, I got sidetracked. I agree that Trump created the conditions, right? So even though he was mainly coming after immigrants and these other groups, we are still the most hated. So when it becomes okay to come after those other groups, we move to the top of the list, even if he isn't out here drumming the beat to fuck with black people. So I get what you're saying.
But what I'm saying is okay, I'm not just talking about black people in regards to like the violent conversation. I'm talking about how
he drops the violence in general. Yeah.
Yeah, like when he dropped the largest bomb on Afghanistan outside of a fucking nuke.
Very, very proud of the people. Really another successful job. We're very, very proud of our military. Just like we're proud of the folks in this room, we are so proud of our military, and it was another successful event.
Did you authorize it, sir?
Everybody knows exactly what happened. And what I do is I authorize my military. We have the greatest military in the world, and they've done a job as usual. So we have given them total authorization, and that's what they're doing. And frankly, that's why they've been so successful lately. If you look at what's happened over the last 8 weeks and compare really to what's happened over the last 8 years, you'll see there's a tremendous difference. So we have incredible leaders in the military, and we have incredible military, and we are very proud of them. And this was another very, very successful mission.
When the North Korea shit was going down, he basically said we would bomb them motherfuckers too. It's like he was on some cowboy shit where Joe Biden, like, I don't fuck with him, but he's not like on some cowboy, we just gonna beat up everybody because we the big bad America type shit.
There's so much nuance, right? Because no, I agree with you, Mud. I do. Go ahead. No, because like you're having a real discussion, and it's like you're just pointing out things that are just facts.
Yeah. And it's not. And Jimmy acting like Trump was pulling up all our troops, and he really was ending the wars. I mean, obviously he didn't start a war, but his rhetoric where he was like, when Kim Jong-un best not make any more threats versus the United States, so he's gonna be met with fire and fury. I said, oh, he's wild. I was like this, you never seen before. I said, oh, he wild. But you know, like, yeah, they both are warmongers. Like, they're both, to me, I don't. But you're right though. Trump does have a certain energy about him that gets get them good old boys a little riled up, and and then ultimately black people end up suffering consequences.
Crazy.
Because because people think that if you really dissect Trump, that you automatically is you love Joe Biden and shit. Well, you know what I mean, when you really break it down. So I ain't think that either. Are you selling the truth? You know, to me, fuck both them niggas again. Where my money at? That's my money.
Listening to Reset Race, you now tuned in to Reset Race. You're listening to Reset Race, you're now tuned in to Reset Race. What? Put them back on the grill again. We grilling them. Put them back on the grill again. We grilling them. Put them back on the grill again. We grilling them. Back on the grill again. We grilling them. You're listening to Reset Race. ADOS need reparations to make America great. You're tuned in to Reset Race. We no longer starving while others eat off our plate. No. You're listening to Reset Race. We focused on our justice claim. We know what is at stake. You're tuned in to Reset Race. You'll find out who really about justice and really who fake. On the edge, go back to US Southern plantations. Penniage, Jim Crow, and mass incarceration. Redlining lynchings. We are old from this nation. You're not about justice if you ain't for reparations. MG, the wise one. Cousin Mother, intellectual. Samantha, bringing fire. Anti-black, we pressing you. No permanent friends and no permanent enemies. The backbone of the country. To win, you need our energy. You gon' see. Listening to Reset Race. You now tuned in to Reset Race. You're listening to Reset Race. You're now tuned in to Reset Race. Put them back on the grill again. We grilling them. Put them back on the grill again. We grilling them. Put them back on the grill again. We grilling them. Back on the grill again. We grilling them. You're listening to Reset Race. ADOS need reparations to make America great. You're tuned in to Reset Race. We no longer starving while others eat off our plate. No. You're listening to Reset Race. We focused on our justice claim. We know what is at stake. You're tuned in to Reset Race. You'll find out who really about justice and really who fake.
Until you do right by me, everything you think about is gonna crumble.
So Bernie has sold us out, and I don't need you to call him a sellout or anything. That's fine. But I do want to see, this is your response, because Bernie was asked about your campaign, and he said it shouldn't happen, and he's against it, and he's endorsing Biden, and of course that is just garbage. And so this is how you responded.
And you even in love, people have deep disagreements about these things. But I think again, he's fearful of the neo-fascism of Trump.
So when my what I would say to you here, and this is a big point, and I'm trying to impress upon you going forward, that when you do that, you sound a little bit like Joe Biden, and what you're doing is you're giving a pass to Bernie Sanders and anybody else for voting lesser of two evils. So you're endorsing the Democrats' message in their campaign. And so now people can dismiss your candidacy and say, well, we got to worry about the neo-fascism of Trump, as if Joe Biden isn't worse, which he is.
Dr. West, speaking of truth telling, I just have to say it. Bernard Sanders also endorsed Joe Biden. He was one of the first to endorse Joe Biden, and many would argue that he did that without leverage as well. And that was before you got on the ballot. I would hope that if you got on the ballot first, he would support you like you supporting him. But what are your thoughts on him kind of jumping out there immediately?
Yeah, I love the brother, and you even in love, people have deep disagreements about these things. But I think, again, he's fearful of the neo-fascism of Trump, and he just sees that somehow Biden. See, part of the problem is that people look at Biden, they don't really want to tell the full truth. If you say, okay, the Trump doesn't even have a bar, he's below the ground, because he just gangster dead up. It's always said he was a gangster, so it's not a surprise. You know what I mean? And he's been obsessed with the 11th commandment, thou shalt not get caught. And looks like he might get caught, but we don't know. We don't know. Most black folk would have done 1/100th of what he did.
Oh, come on.
And end up in jail. So I understand this criminal justice system when it comes to black folk. You see. And so what happens is Biden is cast as being now, he's created the best economy that we can get. And when we leave this place, we're going to see homeless brothers and sisters right around the corner. We leave this place, we know the children don't have what they ought. Workers don't have what. Is this the best that we can get? You're going to tell that lie to the people just for Biden to win so we can push back fascism? All that means is fascism is coming. Because if the only opposition to fascism are lies, then sooner or later fascism is going to take over.
That's right.
So every Democratic administration becomes a postponement of it.
Damn.
But no, black folk, when Frederick Douglass had to choose between two slaveholders, Henry Clay and James Polk in 1844, what did he do? He became a member of the Liberty Party. He said, I can't deal with it.